Welcome back to another Wicked Weekly, your one-stop shop for everything no rest for the wicked, and maybe something a little bit extra for my fellow strugglers out there. I know the grind is real, but we're all in this one together. Now, before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, it really helps this out so much. And I feel like we're so close, yet so far away from that 100,000 subscriber milestone. And because I'm not above bribes, here's the deal. We'll do a giveaway at 90,000. I'm thinking a $100 Amazon gift card. And then again at 100,000, which I'm thinking a $500 Amazon gift card. So if you're interested in it, all you got to do is to qualify is to be subscribed to the channel and leave a comment on the video. Now, more comments will make it more likely to happen. So good luck to each and every one of you. So hopefully this is something we can achieve here in 2025. But with that bribe out of the way, let's dive in to this video.
Here we go!
First up, let's talk about the teaser, the reaction, as well as my thoughts as we get ready to step into it. Now, obviously, we got the teaser for the upcoming update, and for me, it just gets better every time that I watch it. But let's address, obviously, the elephant in the room here. The release date for The Wicked Inside being March the 11th. I know it's frustrating for a lot of people in the community, and honestly, you have every right to feel that way. It's been a long wait. But that said, I really truly believe it's going to be worth it. The visuals here are absolutely stunning. The mechanics that they're teasing actually feel fresh, maybe I dare say a little ambitious as well. So this is one of the reasons why I trust the devs, and it's not just because Thomas believes that Final Fantasy Tactics is rightfully one of the best games ever out there, but this is, or made by Monsuno's work, is a real big inspiration for Wicked. So it's a really great sign to see him talk about this, and that's not that maybe perhaps is a little bit of my bias in here. I'm being a huge Final Fantasy Tactics fan, but also to see him continually praise that game and also look back into the RPGs of our youth and really kind of hone in on what makes them special, to the point where there's a nice contrast to some of the RPGs as of today that are struggling to really find their footing. They're not really living up to that potential. Wicked seems to have that. But that all being said, one of the things that it's like this tweet from Carol, who really kind of encapsulates it. It's the dynamic attention to this detail that we're seeing in these new updates. So just take a look at this post. Like I said, the dynamic leaf tech, where they fall from the trees, they stick to the ground, they get kicked off by characters, and even fall on the water and then float, is one of my favorite new things in this upcoming update for Wicked. Now, obviously more on March the 11th, and Carol is focusing on kind of the tech and just the beauty of that. And they show that off, and it's so subtle that it's not something that you and like the general gamer mindset is going to be focusing in on, but it's going to be that attention to detail that I think is going to separate Wicked from other games out there. It is going to take it from that, like maybe if you would classify Wicked as a AA game because they have no publisher, into perhaps a AAA game with somebody's limited, budget and resources. But anyway, that's just some speculation on my part. I really do like seeing those little nods, and especially the devs being so proud of those nods. And I really do think it's going to pay off for all of us. But let's talk about The Wicked Inside, because that's a big aspect. There's no doubt in my mind that many would be frustrated, obviously, with the announcement of The Wicked Inside being set for March the 11th. Waiting isn't fun, especially when we're all eager to play this game and its next update. But let's highlight a couple comments from the community that I think really encapsulates this frustration. Frank says, "We can't let the devs off the hook for this kind of stuff. I remember on this channel you were speculating the next big update, including multiplayer, around the end of October. Now we get a rough trailer for an announcement on March 11th for the update that still won't include multiplayer. I understand Moon has lost their publisher, but a lot of other things, but this whole situation just reeks of poor management to me." Now, to talk about the update, the October update that I was speculating was the follow-up to the Crucible. Thomas has teased out that they have other modes. They were trying to get into the Crucible update in at the end of July in this case, and thinking on a 3 kind of month development velocity window. That's where I was like, well, I wonder if they're going to follow that up. Maybe they'll do a fast follow with that update. But then when it comes to multiplayer, looking at November or December, now I have it on really good authority. This is what was the target plan. However, yes, things have taken a turn and things have gotten delayed, but that isn't to say that things aren't still moving in that right direction. So here we are. It's 2025. Obviously, those predictions did not come to pass, and we talked about a lot of the reasons why here, being focusing in around obviously private division sell-off, having actually a really big impact, not poor mismanagement, but a really big impact on all the things, because it does mean that a lot of things have had to change behind the scenes. Ultimately, I think it's going to be for the best for us, the players. In the long run, it just means in the short run that we are going to sit down around and be waiting. But ultimately, what we have to do, and we'll talk about more of the response from others in this, is that the game just has to slap. They just have to, when the update drops, it just has to be amazing, and all of us will easily forget this time of waiting. But that sucks, right? Because you can't go and play this update right now. Ultimately, when you do go hands-on, I really wonder what Frank would think. So hopefully we'll get to hear from Frank again in the future, because he is not alone. In fact, their view is also shared by Gape, who says, it's January and been waiting for months. I'm still going to have to wait for more months. Watch and see. Come March 11th, there will be another delay. I think the confidence in announcing the March 11th date is really great. One of the reasons why is because my fear was they were going to try to do something in February. And the same thing even applies to December. Once you get past the first week and a half of December, all eyes, all focus is really in on the holidays. You're not going to get a lot of eyeballs. You're not going to actually retain a lot of information, because people have a lot of things going on. And I don't know about your gaming library in February. Mine ends up usually being quite stacked. Now, there's a couple of things in my life going on right now behind the scenes that really kind of might not lend itself to very much gaming, and we might talk about that. I'm looking at putting together my kind of yearly state of the game, state of the channel address for you guys, so hopefully I'll be able to get that out before February. But all that being said is that I do think that them marking this, they're confident in the date, and it should not slip. In fact, you'll hear a different tone from me if for some reason the March 11th dates slips, because that would be what I would find is unacceptable. They have teased, but they have never kind of put a date on anything this entire time. Any dates have all been my speculation, and when it's all said and done, my goal here is, as a developer, is to try and articulate and understand their velocity. And right now their velocity is fairly low due to reasons that I understand, but it not necessarily are excuses that everybody has to accept. And what we're looking at is that with this update, what is their velocity? How does that change? And when can we start to expect things? The tighter their updates, the more frequent their updates, the better I will get in terms of being able to estimate when we might see certain features, like Thomas has been talking about 1.0. So whether you guys want to trust me or not, if I'm wrong, whenever I make a prediction guess, I gift out members to the community. So that is something that I always want to put my money on the line when it's all said and done. March 11th is the date for the Wicked Inside. I have a good authority that they are trying to hit March for the update. It could be in April, and I've seen people speculate that it might be further out than that. But from everything I'm being told and everything I'm seeing, it does look like we are within that window, at least for the first, kind of quarter or early into April this year. And I think it's going to pay off. And let's talk about a little bit more, because it's like, truthfully, delays obviously aren't always a bad sign. Sometimes they're exactly what's needed to really get things right. So Random says, as long as it's going to be tasty, I don't mind the wait. The teaser looks wicked. Sorry. Thomas himself put it really well when he said, this will be water under the bridge in a year from now, as long as Wicked is just amazing. It really doesn't matter whose fault it is, as people were kind of defending him and giving a little pushback on his Discord. On one hand, I love how passionate gamers are and how excited they get, but it also means that they can be very easily disappointed. And honestly, that's the focus of the team and what the team needs right now. If the wait pays off and Wicked turns out to be as incredible as we're all hoping, the frustration we feel now will eventually fade away. So let's dive into a few little behind the scenes insights. I thought these were interesting. Janity wanted, or Carol as I say, wanted to initially just quickly throw out the boss intro out before Christmas, and I thought that was a little bit lame. We've been working on a ton of things, so even in a smaller teaser, people would have more to speculate about. That was my thinking. But anyway, all of this is just marketing fluff. I can't wait to properly discuss everything in detail during the Wicked Inside, and then we can finally get it right out after. Still need to polish and a bunch of things, but this year will be nutty. Going on to say, I already warned people that this is just a teaser to the Wicked Inside, but one can't stop the hype drain, and I'm wondering if he means train in this case. But yeah, we see that happen a lot. I'm like one of the things, like I'm not in the friends and family build. I haven't played this new update, but that's saying that, naturally there's going to be people who have that kind of reaction going like, well, that's exactly what somebody who's in it would say, right? So when it's all said and done, is it going to be a balance? We're all going to be hopeful, we're all going to be speculative, and because we want this game, we really want more of this game, and we cannot wait to see what they have in store, because what we already have, I think, is so good. And so adding more to that, working their way to 1.0 and getting console players in on the fun, I think is going to truly be something that pays off in the long run. Now, the last big bit of news and discussion I have for you guys this week centers all around Thomas's thoughts and some teasers about the recent calls with Microsoft. Now, the reason why I find this particularly interesting is that I feel like the console wars are, for all intents and purposes, over. Microsoft has been gradually moving towards third party as a strategy for a while now. Now, between Game Pass and their approach to accessibility across devices, they seem less concerned with competing in traditional ways, and I generally believe that we're all going to see a vastly different gaming landscape over the next 5 years. But hey, that's just my theory, a game theory, and time will tell if I'm right. But I want to dive into what Thomas has to say about this, about the calls with Microsoft, and give you guys some of my thoughts as well. Thomas kicks it off. Don't know about that, but Wicked is the highest priority for me. But we just had a call with Microsoft a few days ago, so let's see what will happen. We'll be able to do a lot of things, but again, I'll be on Wicked to perfect it. And this is obviously him alluding to Microsoft really wanting Ori 3 to be made. And if they end up deciding on that fact, I bet we would see the team grow and them start to kind of work on multiple games. But obviously Thomas's focus is on making Wicked and trying to perfect it as much as possible. He also goes on to say, I can totally understand how Masaki probably feels. I'm sure the whole world just now wants him to make more Souls games. But to him, Souls is probably like what Ori is to me now. After 10 plus years of working on something, you owe it to yourself to also make something entirely different. But that's not all, because that's just one piece of this puzzle. Thomas is also over on Twitter, been sharing more of his thoughts on the industry and its dynamics, and they're absolutely worth really understanding his point of view when it comes to the console wars. And he goes on to say, I know some people always wanted me to join in on the console warring, but I strongly believe that Phil Spencer has the right approach. We decided a few years back not to make Wicked game under Microsoft because back then we couldn't have shipped it for PlayStation and for Switch. And since we knew how important multiplayer and crossplay would be, we decided to partner with Take-Two instead. In my emails to Phil over the years, I always thought up how crazy it would have been if you could have only watched certain DVDs on Sony players, while for others you would needed a Samsung player, etc. I think we can all agree this would have been nutty for films. So why are the games any different? Xbox Series X and PS5 basically contain the same hardware nowadays, so porting from one platform to another isn't that big of a deal anymore. Their controllers are mostly the same, and the Steam boxes will also be the same. Not supporting all of these devices makes no sense, since you just cut out a huge chunk of your potential audience. Consoles have been stuck attracting the same 100-150 million players for over 2 decades now. If we want to see the industry grow, there needs to be easier for everyone to access the content. Right now, the price of entry is still too high, with people needing to buy a $500 box just to get their game on it. You'd ultimately want everyone with a screen and a controller to be able to play a game in order to finally break through that barrier and make games available to everyone. I'd be surprised if Sony won't end up with the same strategy. People could buy the device that they liked most, but then they could have access to all the content. And yes, Nintendo will keep doing their thing because Nintendo is Nintendo, and that's okay. But rooting for one huge corporation to sell more boxes over another strikes me as a fantastically census. We should all just share in the love of games. And Crap Gamer replies, this doesn't work because it's just a one-way street. If you're an Xbox owner who bought a Series X and S, Phil Spencer promise of ZeniMax games being exclusive where Game Pass is, you have the right to be angry. PS5 owners get more third-party games, PlayStation exclusives, and goes on. Thomas replies, we'll see how long Sony keeps limiting their software sales to one platform. There's a reason why they've already released the games on PC now. It's money. And they can properly ignore Xbox for now, since Xbox Series hasn't sold all that well. But that might change if Xbox changes their direction. And this is going to be interesting, like when we think about adding in, the potential for Steam to play on maybe the next Xbox or even this generation of Xboxes. That's going to be a game changer because all of a sudden, why does your console actually act as a limited version of an operating system? That's what I think we're going to see. And we're starting to see that real big push for Microsoft with publishing, but it's not about Game Pass in my mind anymore. It's all about Play Anywhere. It's just about, this is the game. You can play it on any screen, PlayStation, Switch. You can play it on PC. You can play it on Xbox. Play Anywhere, I do feel like, is the future for the vast majority of games. Obviously, the Sony diehards, they're going to be in for the biggest shock if this ends up proving out to be true. Microsoft has been training its player base for a decade now, and so that's why I find a lot of the frustration from Xbox fans interesting, because it tells me they're not paying attention, because even last year it was very clear this is the direction. Starfield's coming to PlayStation 5. I think that's going to benefit these games because then you don't have games just actually being points on a board. The game's going to be good, it's going to sell, and that ends up becoming the rule of thumb. Now, Thomas's insights give us a lot to think about, not just about the future for No Rest for the Wicked, but about the gaming industry as a whole. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Seeing as we're maybe seeing the end of the console wars, what does the future hold for gaming for the next 5 years? I'd love to hear your theories, so drop them in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment to be entered into our giveaways here at 90K and 100K subscribers. So thank you guys all so much for tuning into the Wicked Weekly, and until next time, stay wicked. Now, as we near the end of January, it's time for us to spend a little time with our message of hope. That New Year's resolution energy might just be starting to fade away. It happens to the best of us. Life gets busy, and our goals can really feel like they're slipping further and further away. But I want to remind you of something important. Progress isn't just about being perfect. It's about perseverance. Let me share a little bit of my story with you guys, if you don't mind. There have been times where I've really wanted to quit, and honestly, there's times when I have quit just momentarily. If you've ever struggled with something like losing weight, you're not alone. I've been on this journey myself, and I know how real that battle is. Now, this weekend, I had a huge moment of victory. Last year, I bought a belt as a goal, a belt that wouldn't even fasten back then. It wouldn't even go around my waist at all. Now, this weekend, not only did it fit, but it went 3 belt notches deep. And for me, that's progress. That's what happens when you keep going, even when it feels like nothing is changing. Life isn't about our failures. It's about how we pick ourselves up after we fail. That's what matters the most. Now, social media can make all of this really tough, though. It's easy to compare yourself to others and feel like you're falling short. But let me tell you this, you are not defined by anyone else's journey. Don't worry about counting their blessings, count your own. I say this as someone who's still working towards his own goals. Sure, like I said, I want to hit that 100K subscriber mark, and I'd be thrilled if we get there. But even if that never happens, I know my worth isn't measured by numbers on a screen. And that's why I always really try to help out anybody who asks, because at the end of the day, integrity matters far more than any milestone. Now, a couple of quotes I think that can help us carry us forward into February. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. From Winston Churchill. You don't have to be perfect to make progress. Keep going. You'll thank yourself later. From Anonymous. And the only way to fail is to stop trying. And if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, remember this. Every small step forward, don't let a bad day, or a week convince you to give up, because you're stronger than you think, and your journey is absolutely worth it. I'm going to leave you with this verse. It always brings me strength when I'm feeling down. Let us grow not weary in doing good. For the proper time we will reap harvest if you do not give up. From Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. Stay hopeful and stay kind to yourself and stay strong, because you are strong and life is better with you in it. And anyway, until next time, take care.